Hey, it's breaking the news on this Tuesday night, and it's a pretty significant night in Minnesota politics because the worst kept secret in Minnesota politics has been let out of the bag. Governor Tim Walz, a Democrat, says he's going to run for a third term as governor. You can do that in Minnesota. There's no rule against it, no term limits. So to have a discussion about if it is wise and if his race is winnable or if he's beatable, I bring my friend Amy Koch on to the program tonight. Amy has worked with the Republican Party for years. She's been in the legislature. She's had leadership positions. She knows the ins and outs. Amy, this unsurprising news hits you today, and your reaction is?
Well, mixed, I would say. I think from the GOP side and even from the Democrat side, I think that there are some folks that didn't want the governor run and others that did. And I say that because I think the normal path on this is that an incumbent running is good and powerful for the incumbent party. So the DFL with an incumbent governor should feel very strong with this race. And Republicans of any, sort of A level candidates would probably say, well, maybe this isn't the year for me to run. He's got a war chest. He's got a tremendous name ID. He's got a national network of donors. And yet I'm seeing behind the scenes the opposite happening. I hear from some DFLers that are just like, well, maybe it isn't, a third term isn't something that he should be running for. And I'm hearing from Republicans that, gosh, if he's running, they're taking another look at that race.
Right. And it goes without saying, in Minnesota, we don't have term limits. And maybe the idea behind that was we know when to hold them and know when to fold them. You know when your time is up. So what we've seen is typically 2 terms is about it. Governor Pawlenty tried to do a third term run, but he didn't get out of the primary. Perpich had kind of a 2.5 term deal, but not consecutive. So Walz is coming into uncharted waters. He's touched the political sky in terms of running for national office, didn't get it. Comes back, has had a lot to deal with in his first 2 terms. So he's got headwinds. But my question to you, because you're so close to the Republican side, is right now we have Kendall Qualls, a businessman, Dr. Scott Jensen, who ran and lost against Walz the last time, and Representative Kristen Robbins. I don't know enough about her politically or know if she's got enough name recognition. Are any of those 3 Republicans up to the task of unseating an incumbent?
All right. Well, obviously it's a better time this time around because of so on the other side is right. There's all the fraud, waste, and abuse every day. It seems like there's a story. There is this whole fairness issue with Minnesotans, like, third term, we don't need term limits because we're just going to impose them. And then there is the national run that gave him a lot of attention and not all very good attention. So, I think it's a different race for like a Kendall Qualls or a Doc Jensen. I think I'd like to see stronger candidates in the race. Kristen Robbins checks a lot of boxes. She's got a really interesting profile. She's super competent. She runs and is chair of the Fraud, Waste, and Abuse Committee. But as you said, I think kind of like, as you said, I don't know enough about her to know. Well, that is a problem in itself, right? Mm-hmm. That's going to be the response of many Minnesotans. Well, I just don't know enough about her to make a decision. And so that lack of name ID, that sort of lack of knowledge, and a large spending deficit that she has to make up because Walz he's got a treasure. He's definitely got a treasure.
With Walz making it official that he is going to run again, do you foresee any other Republican then stepping forward saying, you know what, I want to take him on?
So I think that's very much a possibility. We will see, but I have heard murmurs in the background for a handful of people that were waiting to see, because there were some very strong rumors that he was not running.
Right.
In fact, folks in the know that said, no, for sure he's not running. And I think we didn't know because he didn't really know. I really do think that he was sort of a little bit back and forth on whether he should make this run. And then obviously he's made the decision. So I'll be fascinated to watch that, which if other Republicans get in. And then of course, the governor's got a different administration already, or even a different ticket, because his lieutenant governor is running for U.S. Senate.
Right.
So the current governor's got to find a new lieutenant governor candidate to run with him. So that's also going to be an interesting story about this.
We talk about that a lot in presidential politics, how much the VP ticket matters in gubernatorial politics in Minnesota. How much does it matter who you name as your running mate?
Well, I think that Peggy Flanagan was very influential. I think that she gave a CD1, an A rating with the NRA congressman, the progressive cred he needed the first time around. He did not win the endorsement, but he did win a primary. And
Okay.
I think that she contributed mightily to that. It's interesting now because he doesn't really need the progressive cred anymore. After his run for vice president, I think that he really has shored that up, and maybe to the detriment. Now it's going to be, can he still prove to Minnesotans that he is that Tim football coach from Mankato, and not, sort of gone Washington, if you will.
Right. Yeah, and I think that is going to be a heavy lift. I would agree with you in that it's, you and I talked about that a couple of months ago. Has Governor Walz does he have this aura around him from the working class Minnesotan that he's not that guy in Buffalo plaid anymore? He's too big for his britches, Governor Walz. He's touched the sky of D.C., and he can't really be the everyman from Mankato anymore. Who's to say?
Is he Mankato Tim? Is he D.C. Walz? And
Right.
that's going to be, I think, yet to be defined.
But again, okay, Amy, I'm going to press you. The murmurs, rumors. Give me names. Any Republican you've heard. Come on. Fess up.
Look, I mean, there's a variety of, first of all, let's be honest also. Republicans have not won statewide for literally decades. So the names are not as well known. We simply don't have that kind of statewide bench. But certainly, and I don't want to out anyone here, but certainly like Speaker Lisa Demuth from Cold Springs would be an outstanding candidate should she decide to run. She's got name ID. She's got demonstrable fundraising ability. She is just been kind of a rock star on the media circuit. And so she would be someone that, I would hope actually would take a second look. Now, I'm also torn on that because I really like her at speaker.
Right.
And so, part of me wants to kind of say, hey, stay in charge of the House. And then the other side of me says, boy, these moments don't come along all that often. And she is kind of at the right place at the right time.
Right. You and I did talk about that, and you didn't want to lose Speaker Demuth in that seat, and she obviously proved her mettle. They passed a budget, and I think she sent a pretty clear message with her relationship with Melissa Hortman, that they were able to pass that budget after the political assassination of Melissa Hortman. Lisa Demuth spoke lovingly about her and the work they did together. She's done and said all the right things, and so it is that moment. Politics is about moments in time, and if there's ever going to be a moment for Speaker Demuth to enter into a race, this one looks like it could be it. But does she want to do it?
Well, that is, that was only a question that she and her family can answer. I think that she is perfectly positioned. Also remember when we've had when gun violence is being talked about, Speaker Demuth served on the Rocori School Board. Rocori, remember, had
Yes.
a terrible school shooting. Now, she was not on the school board when that happened, but her kids were in that school. So
Right.
she can speak also from the heart on that. And talk about, and she has such an understanding of that. So, it is moments of time. I'm sure she's thinking about it. I would hope she's thinking about it. But only time is going to tell now that the governor's had his announcement today. It's all very new.
Well, even if Speaker Demuth isn't thinking about it, other people are and are calling her saying, we're thinking about it for you to
100%.
to do that. But to your, last thing I'll say about that too, and to your point about wanting to keep her as speaker, that's not just a selfish want from the Republican Party. Probably by the end of tonight, when the late Melissa Hortman's seat is filled, it will probably be a Democrat. And so the House will be at a 67-67 tie. And it is important who the speaker is.
Incredibly important. But that also gives her a really great platform in which to spend the next year, continuing to solve the problems, continuing to go after all the fraud, waste, and abuse, becoming the person that has the solutions on some really big issues that are facing Minnesota, and then make the argument that it's time for a new face, it's time for a new person, and she's that person for governor. And first woman, by the way.
And first woman, yeah. The state of Minnesota has never had a woman running for, or never had a woman elected to the governor's office. We're far past time. Most other states have. To that point, we heard a lot in presidential politics when the Democrats had to do a lot of soul searching after losing the last presidential election of what is your message? And your message can't just be, in terms of running for president, I'm not Donald Trump. And so what would your advice be to the Republican candidates trying to unseat Walz? And would it be, you can't just say, I'm not Tim Walz. You have to be for something.
Right. Well, I think that you have to address with some real solutions. I think the playbook on Donald Trump and that we're not Donald Trump is fading this time, right? And so I think that's why that playbook worked in 2018. It worked fantastic in 2020. It worked to some extent in 2022. And less so in 2024. And I think that's not going to be as big of a deal. I mean, anything could happen with Trump, who knows, in 2026. But right now it doesn't look like that. But with Walz, you do have to say, you have to make a clear differentiation. And I don't think the last time around Dr. Jensen made the differentiation. He focused on COVID and nothing else. And I think that was a big mistake. He missed all the pocketbook issues, and that can't be missed on this, right? Whether it's the tax, $10 billion in tax increases, spending a $12 billion $18 billion surplus. Where's that gone? Now we're in deficit. Never mind the billions of dollars that have gone out in fraud, waste, and abuse. So you have to define that, but then you also have to come with solutions that you would do. Okay. How would you solve this? What kind of accountability would you work in? What would your proposal for the budget? Because all that money that was spent, that went to programs that Minnesotans are very happy, are very glad to have as safety nets, especially as on a federal level, we see a reduction in the safety net. So you're going to have to really have a very careful message, drawing the distinctions, but also being solution oriented, because people do get tired of sort of like they stink. It works to a point but Minnesotans are just smarter voters, right? They want to know, okay, great, you don't like it, I get it, I'm not happy about it either, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, what are you going to do about Medicaid, Social Security? And by and large, Amy, NBC News released a poll. Yeah, NBC News released a poll last week, and it asked people what they cared about the most. And it was astonishing how high the percentage was on inflation and economy. Everything else was 20 points behind. The things that we spend a lot of time talking about, social issues that matter, climate change, gun violence, all that stuff, they matter. But when you look at what voters are looking at, it's that age-old James Carville, it's the economy, stupid. Right. So do you think Minnesotans are in line with that too? That
100%. I think that's why you saw what's been going on in DC as not being as detrimental to the Republicans, because there was this feeling that spending has been out of control. And we have to have someone, President, like him or not, said he was going to get it under control, and he's doing that. And I think also on a state level, I think people will look at that and go, we've not had a deficit forecast since 2011. So the first time in 14 years, and we've got one, and we did that from a, $18 billion surplus. What's going on here? No kind of family pocketbook can sustain that. And oh, by the way, cereals costs are up. We're paying a lot more for our hamburger at the grocery store. Gas prices continue to be stubborn. All those things are weighing on Americans and Minnesotans.
Right. Tariffs, inflation, all of that
issues.
Stuff. Yep. All right. Well, the only person you named was Lisa Dameth. So are you going to name anybody else?
Well, we'll see. Again, it's new news. There's a couple out there, but I don't want to out them if they, they're not ready yet.
Okay. And when we talked last, the clock is ticking. It is mid-September. That may seem like a long time, but it's really kind of past time for you to be in this race because you got to raise money and get your name known. So these changes have to happen fast if somebody else is getting in.
I would argue in the next month or so before the holidays for sure. So I would say end of September, beginning of October. That's the sweet spot to get in and still have some ability to raise that money and get your name ID out there.
If Speaker
And
Damith,
caucuses are in February. So
that's right. If Speaker Damith did run, would she have to leave her position to run, or could she stay in that?
no, she could stay. She could stay. And then if she would win, obviously there'd be a special for her seat. But no, she could stay in her position. She would remain at speaker. And, you know, that would be a big lift. That's a heavy job to be the speaker during session, but it also gives her a tremendous platform. So
There you have it. There you are, getting into the nitty gritty with Amy Koch. Amy, we appreciate you. Thanks for being on the show again.
thanks for having me, Jen. I'd love to come on.
All right, thanks. That's all for Breaking the News Plus on this Tuesday night.